Hello, dear friends. Here we are, 40 nights with the Promised Consoler. Yes, the Promised Consoler by Jesus. And here we are, day 6, the greatest gift. These 40 nights are precisely about this journey within ourselves in therapeutic conversations based on revelations by the Spiritist science through the medium Chico Xavier by the Spirit author Humberto de Campos or Brother X. Here we are together getting stronger because it is our opportunity to know more about ourselves. When Allan Kardec, one of the greatest educators in humanity, asked, how can we expedite our inner progress and also avoid wrongdoings? The illuminated minds replied, inner knowledge, self-knowledge. And this is an opportunity for us. Today is March 1st, Wednesday. For some who are with us, it may be already March 2nd. But this day symbolizes for us the day in which Jesus entered the desert and spent 40 days praying and fasting before he actually entered Jerusalem for the ultimate mission. And for us, it's an invitation too. And tonight, we're studying chapter 8, A Grande Dádiva, the greatest gift, by Humberto de Campos from the book Pontos e Contos. The book's not in English, but these chapters are. And we are relaying them to you as a big opportunity for all of us to certainly march towards this inner knowledge. Okay? Let us say hi to our beautiful community and give each other a beautiful hug. A hug of welcoming to one another. Hello, dear Leah, how are you? And Melissa, Rihanna, hello, friends. Cesar, how are you? Just saw Marcella, and good. Sunshine, and Danny and Erica. Hello, Erica and Danny. How are you? Marcella, you're here with us. Family time, right, friends? Beautiful Cesa. Right? All right. So, Rihanna is reminding us it's already morning. Good morning from sunny South Africa. Thank you for the honor of being with us. Adilson and Sol and McCurfy Claire. It's so good to be together, friends. Beautiful Mom, Yara Gouveia. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome, dear souls. Now we're here. Let us grow. Let us love. Let us serve. Let us help each other. Welcome, welcome, dear souls, and we are here to love you so. Shall we? Are you ready? I am ready too, and I'm sharing here with other friends too, because they constantly ask, Vanessa, don't forget. Okay, I'm not forgetting now. Good. Ready, friends. Breathe in and out, because each of these chapters here are beautiful journeys, okay? And for those who are at Kardec Radio, here we are with you. Oh yeah, hopefully we are, right? Hopefully. All right. So here we are in the shining assembly, of the Temple of Jerusalem. The descendants of the chosen people exhibited unusual generosity before the precious chest of public contributions. All brought some tribute of consideration to the Holy of Holies. each showing the freedom of faith. There, linen garments and valuable furs, golden ornaments, and indefinable aromas imposed delicious impressions to the senses. The Pharisees, above all, showed an acute zeal to the external worship, standing out for the beauty of the robes and the rich gifts to the sanctuary. Jesus and some disciples were passing by. Remember the song. They were accompanying the popular demonstrations with justified interest. And Judas, among them, excited by the bulk of the offerings, he was close to the open vault. He followed the gentler movements of the donors with flaming greed in his eyes. At one point, Judas approached the Messiah and informed him, "Master, Jeroboam, the rug dealer, delivered 20 pieces of gold." Jesus serenely said, "Blessed be Jeroboam, because he was able to relinquish considerable excess, perhaps avoiding heavy discomforts. Too much money, when it does not lend itself to the service of the fellow man, is a dangerous tyrant of the soul." Judas, the disciple, returned to the observation post with undisguised disappointment. But after a few moments, he reappeared and notified. Zachariah, the old perfume maker, feeling sick, and at the end of his days brought 100 pieces of gold, Master. And the Christ said in a significant tone, "Blessed be Zechariah. It is better to entrust the fortune to the movements of the faith than to give it to ambitious and ungrateful relatives." Zechariah rendered incalculable benefit to himself. Judas went back on his own to supervision in order to speak shortly about the Galilean shortly after to the Galilean group. Khan's widow, the horse dealer who recently passed away, has given up all her money, the one she received from the Romans, for the sale of a large game of animals. And lowering his tone, he cautiously completed the note. Then they say that some centurions planned to steal her property. Jesus smiled and considered. Many resources huddled to no benefit provoke evil suggestions. Happy is she who knew how to preserve herself against the evildoers. The curious apprentice, Judas, returned to the position of an observer and came back very talkative, garrulous. "Master, Ephraim, the Levite from Caesarea, delivered 200 coins. 200! The divine friend replied without affectation, "Blessed be Ephraim. It is a great virtue to know how to give what is left in the midst of so many covetous people who rejoice at the table, forgetting the unfortunate ones who do not have a crust of bread. At that moment, a poverty-stricken widow, judging by the simplicity with which she presented herself, entered the temple. In the face of Judas' sarcastic smile, the Lord paid close attention to her follower by his companions. The humble woman prayed and presented 2 pennies to the celebrated shrine. Many bystanders laughed wryly, but Jesus hastened to clarify. Indeed, this poor widow gave more than all the mighty men gathered here, for she did not hesitate to entrust to the temple what she possessed for her own sustenance. The charitable and beautiful observation froze the prevailing criticism. Little by little, the huge room became calm. Noble and nameless Israelites dumbly abandoned the abode of faith. Jesus and the apostles were the last to retreat. When they were about to leave the temple, the huge empty room, a woman slave with visibly aged countenance and hesitant footsteps appeared on the threshold as she attended to the cleaning. She moved for a few minutes. Here she collected crushed flowers. There she wrapped the debris left by careless infirm in wet cloths. She had a smile on her lips and patience in her gaze, silently grounding the floor so that the air could be purified in the sublime residence of the Lord. Now, alone with the Messiah, Peter was still impressed by the lessons received. He then dared to ask, "Lord, was the poor widow the greatest donor in our Father's temple?" "Indeed," said Jesus in a fraternal tone, "the widow gave a great deal, while the great lords witnessed their own vanity, with intelligence stripping themselves of goods that were only an embarrassment to future tranquility. She gave the Almighty what she meant, food for her own body." Then there was a slight pause, and Jesus pointed with the indicator the anonymous maid who was in charge of the sacrificial cleaning, and concluded, "The greatest benefactor for God, however, is not yet the humble widow who has given up the bread of a moment. It is that woman bent over with labor, fragile and emaciated, who is offering her own sweat to the greatness of the temple." The greatest gift. What is this all about? Is Jesus telling us that we need to give everything to our churches, to our temples? What is the point? What is the point? Let us observe that this text begins by describing the Temple of Jerusalem and the people who were there. How many of us are still like Judas, who observe the appearances, the external, how many of us are still paying attention to the external? Like Judas. Oh, did you see what Bill Gates donated? Beautiful, that's beautiful indeed. And like Judas, we're like, oh, that person donated that much to this, that much to that. Still like this. Are we still like that? He describes to us that Judas was excited by the bulk of offerings. And he followed to observe the movements of the donors. Our society is very much like this, right? The appearances. The appearances. And the question is not what others do, but are we still like this in the illusion of the appearance of the external? What do you think? Think about this, and let me say hi to the people, the friends who entered after we started reading. Hello, dear Angelita. And Raquel, thank you, Raquel. Vanessa Serial. Rita de Cássia, thank you, my friend. Patricia and Tiago, beautiful couple, thank you for joining us. And Ellen Cortez, hello from Mission Viejo, California. Thank you, my friend. Welcome, welcome. It's great to have you here. It's great to be together, friend. Here we have this intercontinental gathering every night. This is day 6 of a 40-night journey with the Promised Consoler, right? And it's inviting us to meditate on our own habits. Let us observe. When we are dealing with the talents we're given, the material possessions, the physical body, our time, intelligence, and everything, where are we? Judas had this flaming greed in his eyes, and he could enhance, thinking that those donations were amazing. But Jesus is telling us in between the lines much more than that, right? He's saying, Tiago, you're adorable. Thank you. You and Patricia. It's great to have you here. But Jesus begins telling us the laws of life, saying, somebody gave 20 pieces of gold. And Jesus, serenely, he's teaching without words. Teaching us, teaching Judas, let's be serene before this apparent greatness of matter. And he teaches us more. He says, because when we are relinquishing ourselves in considerable excess, we perhaps avoid heavy discomforts. Too much money, when it's not to the service of all, becomes a dangerous tyrant. Nobody ever thinks they have too much money, right? But it's as a reference, we need always to think about those who have nothing, and then we realize we have a lot. That's how we measure it. Leon Denis has that thermometer for us. In the book After Death, which you can acquire the website of the United States Spiritist Federation, spiritist.us, he tells us about that thermometer. Whenever you are dealing with your own possessions, your own talents, and even the use of our time, think about those who don't have that opportunity. And then we'll be wiser in managing it, even our time. Sometimes we use our free time to indulge in acquiring more things, more knowledge, but we forget about the things, the people who need a helping hand, who need our company. So using our free time to partake in the works of the general good is a good opportunity for us. So Zachariah donated 100 pieces, and Jesus, in a significant tone, said, "It's better to entrust the fortune to the movements of faith than to give it to ambitious and ungrateful relatives." I remember when Carlos and I were talking about savings. He said, "Oh, maybe we build a house the way we want." And Mentor Joseph kindly said, "A house, you make all that effort, you build it." You know, when people think about dream homes, it's like so silly. Dream homes in the material plane? Not saying we shouldn't work on the embellishment, but there is a fine line, right? Making it a priority in our lives or not. And then Mentor Joseph said, and I relate to Carlos, what is the point of being a dream home when our community doesn't have its own permanent headquarters for the spiritual activities, the spiritist activities? You acquire a home, and then as Jesus is saying, later you discarnate and it's shared by your children, and then even a dream home is nobody's, and even it is, it serves one family versus a community. And Jesus is telling us that this is the real deal. It is. When we entrust the fortune to the movements of faith. And I am forever grateful to my great-great-grandmother, grandfather, and the great-grandfather and the family who built a Spiritist Center in Brazil, and it's turning 100 years, and thanks to that effort, generations were benefited. Got to know of Spiritists not only in our family, but many other families. Many other families. And I thank them, because if they had built a palace, it would have served probably their generation and the next generation. Then it would become outdated. People would sell and buy something else, and etc., etc. So we need to observe Jesus' invitation. It's better to entrust the fortune to the movements of faith than to give it to ambitious and ungrateful relatives, because they always exist. And by doing so, Zachariah rendered incalculable benefit to himself. Are you surprised, friends? Are you? Yeah? I don't think we'll ever regret making a move like that. Look at the founding fathers of the United States of America and the opportunities that they gave all of us by giving of what they had, not only ideas, but the finances, like the wonderful General George Washington, the first president. He invested on the first army from his own pocket. And we're not here pro-war, but the beauty of his selflessness to secure the new land, he invested it with his own money. He gave the biggest chunk. And if you're living in the United States, we owe a great deal to him, to his family. And if you come to DC, visit us, but also visit his house in Alexandria, Virginia, which is near DC, so you can get inspired by the missionary mind of George Washington. Let us meditate on this, friends. No nation can be created without a lot of selflessness. No home can stand solid without a great deal of selflessness. Interested in the general good. How much of your mind, my financial and your financial, the income you dedicate to the general good? It's not only the church or the Spiritist Center, but to the general good. 10%, 5%, 1%, 50%, 70%. Chico Xavier gave 100%. And we as Spiritist Centers, we always open those brackets about the Spiritist communities. We need to revisit when we become organizations that are too focused on the material sustenance and to the point that we're competing with others for the publishing of books. We really need to be careful, because when the publishing of books become the source of income to the point that we're competing with others, we're incurring a grave mistake, which is ancient. So that's why Mentor Joseph said, no matter how many books we translate, we don't want the copyright, we don't want the publishing rights, we don't want any money from it. Why? Because we cannot use mediumship even to sustain our Spiritist centers. Can we repeat it? I cannot use mediumistic works and its products as the venue to sustain our Spiritist movement. If you paint, and if I incurred in that mistake in the past and you did too, we forgive ourselves and we move forward. But Mentor Joseph clearly says, according to the Spiritist conduct given in the book by André Luiz, and also in the teachings by Emmanuel and Chico Xavier himself, we don't aim at using these mediumistic works to sustain our works. Chico Xavier never did it, and so Kardec never did it, and we shouldn't do either. Jesus, our guide and model, never did it. Paul of Tarsus never did it. We need to stop this pilgrimage in which all these mediumistic works are going to be the financial foundation of our organization. I'm so sorry, whether it's a book or a painting or whatever, free is free. Free mediumship through Chico Xavier shall never be turned into treasure, material treasure, for an individual or for an organization, period. We can sell for the benefit of selling, but that shall not be the aim. Because then we start competing. Publisher A, publisher B. And then we are incurring in a grave mistake of the past that is revived 2,000 years later. And our movement, unfortunately, is incurring in that challenge. We need to observe it, rewind the tape, publish the books. Yes, there is some margin that stays to help, but that's not the goal. It's just, it happens, but that's not our goal. So the question is, who sustains the center? The members of the center, especially the members of the board of directors. We cannot go there and demand that people in the center pay for. It's in the book Spiritist Conduct by André Luiz. We cannot go there and tell people at the end of a meeting, at the end of a service, oh, we're going to do this and that because it says this on there, Luis. People are going to think that they're going to pay for what they've received, the passes, the talk, by buying this, that, and the other. And we cannot pay. I remember in Baltimore, American friends who were becoming acquainted with Spiritism asking me, but how do I pay for these services? You don't, my friend. But I want to pay. Vanessa, if you don't allow me to pay, you're going to make me indebted. And I said, my friend, it's between you and God. I have nothing to do with it. The Spiritist Center has nothing to do with it. You ask God how you return the favor, but it's not us. You pay it forward by doing good to others, not with money. With money, we'll never pay for any credit that you receive spiritually. Okay, friends? Never, ever, ever. It's something that we incurred in mistakes in the past, and we cannot benefit financially, either the organization or individually, through these pathways that are sacred. And the Spiritist pathways are sacred. Right, Solange? Lots of prayers for our spirits and for ourselves. You're right. We're not judging, right, Adilson? We're just reminding ourselves. Because sometimes we incur in those mistakes and we are not noticing. But we just need to remind ourselves, right? Thank you, Vanessa, for the opportunity of explaining the meaning of the word selfless. Okay, all right. So now, Judas went back on his own, and then he observed another widow that gave up all the money she received from the Romans for a sale of a large game of animals. And then Jesus said, you know, many resources huddled to no benefit provoke evil suggestions. Happy is she who knew how to preserve herself against evildoers. So if we have resources that go to no benefit, it's like you put a bill of $100 on a table and you ask people to come and mingle from the streets. You don't even know the people and you believe that it's going to stay there. So you're inducing evil. You're provoking, he's saying. That carelessness becomes trigger. So we need to be more careful. Right? So Tiago is saying we lose freedom when we charge unscrupulously for our talents. Exactly. How about your ticket and hotel? But that's another story, Rita. For example, when we at the Spirit Side of Virginia, and Spirit Side of Baltimore, and the Spirit Side of Washington, we invite speakers to come, we cannot ask them to pay for their tickets. That's not charitable. Because they have their bills to be paid. They're already giving their time. But the minimum we can do is to minimize their expenses. And that's what we do. We pay for their ticket and their hotel if they cannot stay in our homes. And for the meals. Yes, that is charity. Not charity per se, because we're just taking the person from the comfort of their homes to be there. So we better be kind and say, look, I don't want you to add an expense. So we team up and pay for it. But I'm not going to ask the public who doesn't know about Spiritism to come and pay for it. Of course, if I have to pay the rent of a hotel to make a large event of a convention center, it's fair that I charge people who are coming in, the attendees, to pay for the ticket. Like, for example, the symposium in May in Orlando. But the ticket is symbolic because we have organizations that are contributing and sponsoring it. $20 for a registration is nothing. And even the medical spiritist meetings, people pay a little more. But it's worthwhile because you're instructing and there are lots of expenses. And it's very symbolic at the end of the day. But we need to pay for the ticket of the person who comes visit us. Imagine, I cannot ask the Dalai Lama to come and give a talk and say, figure it out. I'm doing a favor because I'm inviting you. No. He is doing us a favor because he's leaving the comfort of his home to come and visit us and share his time and sweat. Because it's not simple. Right? Right. Exactly. Leia Severo is kindly sharing with us that after 21 days journey with the book Money, we can understand this chapter about Judas. You're right. And I think he goes even deeper, right, Leia? Because Humberto de Campos gives us some body language of Jesus here that is really lessons. Like, for example, when he smiled when he was talking about the centurions that wanted to steal the property. He didn't smile ironically. He smiled of kindness, saying, you know, she's wise for doing so, because when we allow our resources to be carelessly given away, not to the benefit of all, we're provoking evildoers. So here we have the talkative Judas and Jesus, the divine friend, very calmly saying, it's great virtue to know how to give what is left in the midst of so many covetous people who rejoice at the table, forgetting the unfortunate ones who do not have a crust of bread. So the question for us tonight is, what about us? Do we forget about those who are unfortunate and don't have as much? Most often than not, we do. Let's give an example. You know that in a week, there's a vacation coming up. You plan your vacation. I want to go to Hawaii and spend a week there in the best hotel, best airline, first class. Is there a problem doing that? Kind of, yes. When you know that the world is suffering and there are people who do not have the minimum to survive, etc., and we think that we are entitled to using that money that is temporarily in our hand for our own selfish benefit without thinking of the benefit of others who also live in Hawaii. Because we've got to know that Hawaii is beautiful for the tourists, but those who live there, there is poverty on the behind the scenes. So Vanessa, does it mean we don't take a vacation? Yes, you balance. Take vacations that also benefit others. Fraternity without borders. Oh, but Vanessa, I want a beach and relax. But for how long? For the whole month of your vacation? Can we balance like 2-3 days to recharge, replenish myself with my family and friends, and then the other 3 days doing some work for others? And not necessarily only giving food. It can be in any way. It can be working on a book, on a translation. It can be on posting beautiful things. It can be so many things. So balancing, Jesus is telling us, it's a great virtue. As Tiago is reminding us, maybe it's about intention, fraternal, loving management of resources with detachment and with the benefit of others ahead of our own. Beautifully said. Thank you, Tiago. Now, Judas had the sarcastic smile when he saw the widow giving only 2 pennies. And we've learned that she gave more than the other people who gave 100, who gave 200. Seriously? 2,000 years passed by, and let's ask ourselves a moment of reality. Reality check for us. How often we see people who give 1 million, and you're like, wow, like Judas. And we got to know, even ourselves, we give like $10. Like, I'm not contributing that much. Or we see somebody who comes and says like 50 cents. And then 2,000 years pass by and we're still there like Judas. We're still there. Appearance, appearance, appearance. I'm not saying you, we're just saying the world. But the question is, how much of it is still inside of us? If not 100%, how much of us is still seeing the world like this? Saying, wow, that person is doing a lot. We cannot judge. That's the fact of the matter. But most surprising to us is when Jesus, Humberto de Campos, described this passage that we didn't know of. That the widow came, gave 2 pennies, and Jesus said, she's giving more than the others. But then, as they were leaving, a woman who was a slave, she was older, could barely walk, moved for a few minutes, but she was making sure to make that temple look so beautiful. And Jesus, in a fraternal tone, says, the greatest benefactor for God is not yet the humble widow who has given up the bread of a moment, but the woman who offered her own sweat to the greatness of the temple. And the temple of Jerusalem here represents, in this moment, the land, the world, the universe. How much of us we're giving of our own sweat to the greatness of the earth, of our own sweat. How much? And we often think now, I'm going to the center, I'm feeling good. I have a headache, I don't go. I'm not going to go to the caravan of love because I feel indisposed. And this woman is showing to us she's not even free. Nowadays, we're talking in the United States and in Great Britain about immigrants all over the world. Many immigrants feel like slaves. But they're not. And we ask, are we giving of our sweat? Are we giving of our vitality? Look at Chico Xavier. Look at Mother Teresa. They gave of their sweat. Oh, you have a cold? Keep working. Oh, you're feeling indisposed? Keep working. This is Emmanuel's recommendation. But Vanessa, what about balance? Balance is inside. Balance in regards to our inner. It's about doing the work with love, with devotion, with our sweat. And Rita de Castro is finally saying, grain by grain the chicken can eat well. Exactly. What are we giving of ourselves for the greatness of the universe? What are you giving? What am I giving? Of our own sweat to the greatness of the temple. Let's observe the movement of this woman. She was silent, she was patient, and she was there making sure the air could be purified in the sublime residence of the law. Exactly. Right, Raquel? Balance is the inner. I asked Mentor Joseph the other day, but Mentor Joseph, when people talk about balance, you know, if I work on this external balance, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to be there at 11 p.m. We're not going to wake up early. And he said, Vanessa, balance is the inner. It's about how we do things. It's our intention. If I do things with love and devotion, I can sleep at 2 a.m. like Chico Xavier and wake up at 6 and I'll be replenished. Because it's not about quantity, it's about quality. So balance is the inner. It's about how we do things, not what we do and how many hours I do it. Right? How much are we giving out of our sweat The giving of our vitality is the biggest of our gifts for this life. Melissa summarized it all. And talking about giving, right? We give of ourselves, but it's not ours. Your vitality, my vitality, your sweat, my sweat is actually God's gifts that I am applying well. What is actually ours? What is it? Good question, huh? At the end of the day, we're co-creators. We're given the Play-Doh of life, and we're building it with God, together. Exactly. Friends, shall we remind ourselves, I am a child of God, and as a child of God, I am of God. The world is of God. Money is from God. At the end of the day, we are in true jubilation because everything is of God and beautiful. So, friends, let's rejoice. Let's sing together to evoke our divine. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. I reincarnated to learn to do good. Reincarnation, the path of progress. Reincarnation, the opportunity. Reincarnation, the way to become good, to achieve true happiness. Yuppie! This is my emoji. Hearts for you. Dum dum, dum dum. The greatest gift is you and I and all of us, because Jesus is passing by and He's calling you. And when Jesus passed by, everything is fine, sadness is gone and happiness arrives. And when He comes, everything is fine, sadness is gone and happiness arrives. What? Jesus is passing by. Jesus is passing by. And when He comes, everything is fine. That's why we're feeling so happy right now. Let us work together, share the good news, and embellish the world. Work with our own sweat for the greatness of the universe. Beautiful, beautiful souls, beautiful hugs. Share the good news. You are the light. Let it shine.